Every catastrophe you've ever heard of, the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, the supervolcanoes, the ice ages, none of them come close. Not even remotely. There was a moment in Earth's history so violent, so absolute, that the planet tried to consume itself whole. And for a while, it was winning. This isn't mythology. This isn't theory. The evidence is still sitting beneath your feet right now. And once you understand what actually happened, you'll never look at the ground the same way again. To understand what Earth did to itself, we have to go back. Not just before humans, not just before dinosaurs, before fish, before bacteria, before anything. We're going back to a time so ancient and so brutal that scientists gave it a name borrowed from mythology, the Hadean, named after Hades, the underworld, because that is exactly what it was. For 0.6 billion years ago, Earth didn't exist. What existed was a spinning cloud of gas and dust left over from the formation of our sun. Gravity pulled these particles together. Then rocks, then boulders, then asteroid-sized chunks slamming into each other at tens of thousands of kilometers per hour. The energy released from these collisions was so extreme that the entire surface of early Earth became liquid rock. A global ocean, not of water, but of magma. The surface temperature hovered around 2,000 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere was a crushing toxic mix of volcanic gases. No oxygen, no protection, no possibility of life. Earth was, in every sense of the word, a world of fire. But beneath this chaos, something important was happening. The planet was beginning to sort itself out. Heavier elements like iron were sinking toward the center, forming the core. Lighter materials were rising. And as this process unfolded, enormous amounts of energy were released from deep inside the planet. The Earth wasn't just hot. It was building pressure, like a bomb with a very long fuse. Here's where it gets terrifying. All that pressure building inside the planet had to go somewhere, and it chose to go up. Scientists studying ancient rock formations have uncovered evidence that early Earth experienced volcanic activity on a scale that makes every modern eruption look like a candle flame. We're not talking about one volcano or 10. We're talking about a planet where the entire crust was a thin skin stretched over an ocean of superheated rock, and that skin kept cracking. The gases released were catastrophic. Sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, water vapor in concentrations that created a pressure cooker atmosphere. The early Earth had no ozone layer, no breathable air, no filter between the surface and the raw energy of the sun. The sky was a toxic, crushing blanket of volcanic gas that would have killed any modern organism instantly. And then came the chain reactions. One eruption triggers a pressure release nearby. That pressure release opens a new vent. That new vent releases heat and gas, which destabilizes the crust in a third location. Scientists call this volcanic rifting. And in the Hadean Era, it was not a local event. It was global, simultaneous, and self-reinforcing, each eruption making the next one more likely. Think about what that means. A planet erupting everywhere, not recovering between eruptions, just continuously tearing itself open from beneath. Earth was consuming its own surface, destroying what little crust had managed to form, and it wasn't done. This is the part that gives geologists chills when they talk about it. The actual mechanism by which Earth tried to swallow itself. It's called subduction, and in the early Earth, it went catastrophically, perhaps irreversibly wrong. Subduction is how Earth recycles its crust. One tectonic plate slides beneath another, sinking into the mantle where it melts and gets recycled back to the surface through volcanoes. In our modern world, this process is slow, steady, and keeps the planet in balance. Without it, Earth would have been geologically dead billions of years ago. But in the Hadean Era, the crust was nothing like what we have today. It was thinner, hotter, far more unstable. And the mantle beneath, it was so intensely hot that the normal rules of subduction simply did not apply. Scientists analyzing ancient rock records have found evidence that sections of early Earth crust didn't just subduct, they catastrophically collapsed. Entire plates didn't slide under gradually. They plunged rapidly, taking massive sections of the surrounding surface with them as they went, like a trapdoor opening beneath a continent. When a section of crust collapses like this, it changes pressure gradients across thousands of kilometers of surrounding crust, which can trigger another collapse and another. Scientists call these events megaslumps, geological avalanches measured not in seconds, but in thousands of years. And in the Hadean Era, they weren't isolated. Evidence suggests they were happening globally. Simultaneously, Earth was eating itself. The surface was being consumed by the interior faster than it could be rebuilt. For a period possibly lasting millions of years, the planet was in a state of geological crisis with no modern equivalent. Nothing happening on Earth today comes close to what this looked like. And here is the part that should keep you up at night. Had this process continued, had the crust kept collapsing faster than it could be renewed, Earth could have ended up like Venus, a planet locked in geological death. No tectonic activity, no temperature regulation, no liquid water, no life, ever. So what stopped it? How did a planet this violent, this unstable, this self-destructive become the only world we know of capable of producing complex life? The answer is cooling. Around 4 billion years ago, the intense asteroid bombardment of the early solar system began to slow. For the first time, Earth was losing heat faster than it was gaining it. The magma ocean began to solidify at the surface. A real crust began to form, stable enough finally to hold. As the crust stabilized, subduction became regulated. Instead of catastrophic collapses, tectonic plates began to move in the slow, steady rhythm we know today. The supervolcano chain reactions quieted. The atmosphere began to change. And then, in what some scientists consider the most improbable event in the history of the universe, water arrived. Delivered by asteroids and comets, water filled the basins of the newly stable crust. And the chemistry that would eventually produce everything alive on this planet began. Earth hadn't just survived its own attempt at self-destruction. It had used it. The geological violence that nearly erased everything instead laid the foundations for a living world. This story isn't just ancient history buried in textbooks. The physical evidence is still here. In the Jack Hills of Western Australia, geologists have found zircon crystals that are 4.4 billion years old, the oldest known material on Earth's surface. And embedded in these tiny crystals are chemical signatures that suggest liquid water existed even during the most violent phase of the Hadean Era. Earth was tearing itself apart above, and water was already forming below. Life was already looking for a way in. The cracks that tried to destroy everything became the same channels that delivered the ingredients for life. That is the story written in rock. For 0.4 billion years old, and still readable if you know where to look. Every mountain range you have ever seen was shaped by forces that nearly killed this planet. Every ocean, every canyon, every earthquake you have ever felt, all of it is the echo of a world that came this close to becoming nothing. Earth did not just survive its own self-destruction. It used it. The very violence that almost erased everything instead built the foundations of a living world. And that is perhaps the most extraordinary thing about the planet we call home. It is not gentle. It is not fragile. It is ancient, violent, and built entirely from catastrophe. And somehow, impossibly, it made us. Earth's story doesn't end here. We've only opened one chapter in a history written in fire, stone, and silence. If you want to keep going deeper into Earth's most extreme chapters, the catastrophes, the near extinctions, the impossible survivals, then subscribe and join us. This channel exists to explore the moments that shaped our world and the forces still shaping it now. Like the video if you found it worth your time. And tell us in the comments, which chapter of Earth's violent history should we uncover next? This is Yoan, and the story is far from over.